What is good, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video as we're here for another retro review, and one that is very special. I know that I say a lot of my videos are special, but this one is going to be very special because I put a lot of effort into combining and working on the things that we're discussing here today, because it's a bit out of the norm for what we do. Normally, we just discuss an event from Ring of Honor history. But in this video, I've compiled several different matchups with one big similarity to talk about in this video. So, today, we'll be discussing the best of ROH at the 2300 Arena, Volume 1. Now, with me saying Volume 1, the hope is that down the line we get to a Volume 2. I got this idea during last week's Dynamite, and I was like, I don't know what one show to discuss from ROH's history at the 2300 Arena, because I want to discuss this one and that one, etc. A lot of it was like one-match shows, so I shortened it down. I've compiled several matches from ROH's history at the 2300 Arena to discuss here today. It also does not help me that literally the next day that AEW's YouTube channel, which has been uploading a lot of ROH matches, and ROH's YouTube as well, made a best of ROH at the 2300 Arena, but I just got done watching that video. No duplicate matches. So, one of us is lying. You know, that can't be a best of, this can't be a best of, and, you know, without any overlap. Granted, half of these matches not being on that list makes sense. But, again, right now, we are discussing the best of ROH at the 2300 Arena. So, we're not talking about one event specifically. We're talking about several matchups, which I will list in the description down below, because it's something unique and out of the norm, and hopefully we do it a bit again down the line. Because like I said, this is planned to be Volume 1, might be Volume 2, 3, etc. down the line. But let's get into this one right now. The first matchup we're here to discuss is Chris Hero versus KENTA from ROH on HDNet, episode number 29. We have a lot of matches that could make it from HDNet because a great majority of the HDNet run for ROH was at the 2300 Arena. The last couple of tapings weren't, but a good majority were at this venue. I'll also say that HDNet content is very difficult to obtain unless you have the best of HDNet DVDs or can catch it on a YouTube upload. All right, this matchup specifically was a YouTube upload. Regardless, we're here to talk about Chris Hero KENTA, ROH on HDNet, episode number 29. Also want to point out, the highlighter was used for special sidebars and side notes, which we're immediately kicking off with a side note, because on episode number 26 of ROH on HDNet, KENTA, Roderick Strong, and Bryan Danielson defeated the American Wolves and Chris Hero. So we got a singles matchup with Hero and KENTA out of it right now. A technical start between the two with vicious elbows from KENTA and slaps by Hero. Hero tries to do a drop kick to the outside, but KENTA moves out of the way and then delivers a kick. Hero retaliates in the ring with slaps and elbows. KENTA fires up with several clotheslines, including one off of the top rope. Then he applies the STF afterwards. Hero applies the stretch plum once he gets out of it. Both men are landing big boots in the corner, with KENTA eventually turning his into a running dropkick in the corner. Then a double foot stomp off of the top rope that gets a 2 count. Then a bicycle knee that gets a 2 count. Shane Hagedorn and Sarah Del Rey distract KENTA at this point, leading to Hero landing a pair of rolling elbows that get a close 2 count. Then another rolling elbow that gets another close 2 count. Hero wants to load up at this point with another rolling elbow, but this time around it would have been with the loaded elbow pad until his rival, Eddie Kingston, comes out down to the ring and steals that loaded elbow pad, and Hero is worried about that and immediately gets caught with KENTA's go to sleep, leading to KENTA picking up the victory after the 3 count. So a very fun matchup to start off this list. The crowd was really into the second half, and especially the go to sleep once it was landed. You got a pair of side notes right here, because this would actually end up being KENTA's last match in ROH. A lot of people know KENTA from ROH, if not, more than likely Pro Wrestling Noah. If you know him from WWE, good for you, but you missed a lot of his good stuff in Pro Wrestling Noah and Ring of Honor. And this is a sad fact that's coming up right here, and we'll probably have some more sad facts down the line. It was scheduled to return to ROH in 2020, but obviously with me saying those numbers, you can understand why that return did not happen. and now he's in Pro Wrestling Noah. And while it's not impossible for him to have a match in ROH down the line, it is not something that I would expect, but would be against if it happened. So, fun opening contest to start here. Because now the next two matchups have something in common. They're on the same DVD, and I will admit that I started filming this, and I was like, I know I'm forgetting something. The moment I can show physical props, I can. Because we got ROH on HDNet Volume 9, where two of the matchups coming up will be discussed. The first of those matchups is the cover of this DVD because it is a big matchup and rivalry from Ring of Honor history. The next matchup we're talking about is Davey Richards versus Tyler Black from ROH on HDNet 78. This is the only matchup filmed on that episode and took up the entire runtime that week. And I will say that the side note for this matchup and the importance of this matchup is that it's technically, and I'm putting that in quotations, Tyler Black's last ROH match because it would end up airing on October 18th, 2010. But this is back in the day when things were taped. And it was taped well before October 18th, 2010. And he had several other matchups after that, specifically against Eddie Edwards at Champions Challenge. Once again against Davey Richards at Tag Wars versus Christopher Daniels at Fade to Black. Great DVD cover that I do not own, but is in my eBay watch list. And his last matchup actually was against Roderick Strong at Glory by Honor 9, in which Roderick Strong would defeat him to become the Ring of Honor World Champion. So you're probably wondering, which, this is the thing. Obviously, I wasn't paying attention at the time, and it wouldn't have been something as of important of a note. But when title changes happen, some are planned, some are known and whatnot. And I imagine because everybody knew Tyler Black is on his way out, he's going to WWE. There's a little TNA rumor in there as well, but I kind of don't really believe that. But that doesn't matter now. He's been in WWE since then. So when this was filmed, Tyler Black was the ROH World Champion. And the way they kind of got away from this is that he ran down to the ring, so you wouldn't even, it was kind of a blink in your miss notice moment that he did not have the world title. This is also several months after their famous Death Before Dishonor match, so the rivalry concludes right here. Immediate start between the two heated rivals with Black delivering a dive to the outside. Black lands a pair of kicks in the ring while Richards does the same on the outside. We get a boo, yay, punch exchange followed by an elevated reverse DDT by Black. Richards throws some kicks with a dive to the outside as well, and the top of his head bounces off of the barricade, but he seems to be fine. We get a handspring enziguri in the ring that gets a 2 count. Black launches Richards over the top rope, and then back of the ring hits a top rope clothesline and an F5 that gets a 2 count. Is that a reference? Not really. German suplex off of the top rope with Black landing on his feet, and then the two exchanging enziguris afterwards with several Richards kicks on the apron as well. Black considers walking out of the matchup at this point. At the count of 19, he gets back in the ring, which would have been a funny ending, but a shitty ending. But it didn't end there. We got a buckle bomb that gets a 2 count, a God's Last Gift that gets a close 2 count, a chop exchange on the top and middle rope, leaving Davey in position for Tyler to deliver a foot stomp, and a coast-to-coast drop kick that gets a 2 count. A Phoenix Splash attempt, but Davey gets his knees up, and then he hits the DR driver for 3. No, it's not. It's 2. I swear the referee hit 3, but it was only a 2 count. Davey hits his own God's Last Gift, getting a 2 count out of it, and applies a Texas Cloverleaf afterwards for the tap out finish and to send Tyler Black on his way out. This would be a massive moment for Richards in ROH. He would have a Ring of Honor World title matchup at Final Battle, in which he would lose, but he would win the world title down the line. Again, a very important matchup, and one that was important enough to have its own DVD cover on HDNet Volume 9, which again, I'm going to show right here. Because we got one more matchup from this DVD to talk about. That is the last matchup from episode number 80, a steel cage matchup. Kevin Steen and Steve Corino teaming up to take on Colt Cabana and El Generico. Fun fact, also on this DVD, the first matchup is a steel cage match involving Delirious and Austin Aries, and I looked it up. The back-to-back days of the taping. So day one, because most of the HDNet tapings, they would tape back-to-back days, and then both days would mostly cover like a month worth. So The day before would have covered September, and then the next day of taping would have covered October. I know I just confused the hell out of you. I apologize. Point being, the previous day, Delirious and Austin Aries had a steel cage match, and then the next day, Steen, Corino, Cabana, and El Generico had a cage match as well. So let's talk about the tag team one. And also, this is literally in the middle of the Steen and Generico rivalry. If you don't know anything about that rivalry, do yourself a favor, type in Kevin Steen and El Generico and learn about it, because it is some of the best stuff in ROH history. And most important. Nevertheless, I just read that note over again. All right, start of the match. Cabana is immediately hit in the face with the door, which I imagine several people would want to do that to him. I shouldn't have made that joke, but I did. As the match starts on the outside, Steen takes the key away from referee Todd Sinclair and hides it away, giving Cabana and Generico enough time to recover. Generico delivers a crossbody on both opponents, then Corino is slammed face first into the cage 4 times, which eventually busts him open. Steen delivers a powerbomb on Generico into the cage. Corino and Steen then take Cabana to the top rope, where he kicks both of them off, and then Generico comes in with a Hakuza kick to both men. A Billy Guts curse to Corino, with Cabana delivering a beautiful moonsault off of the top rope, with more Hakuza kicks from Generico afterwards. Generico goes to the top of the cage, and Cabana is the one to tell him to do that, but Steen pushes him off, and so he's sitting there, and then he pushes him completely out of the cage, leaving Corino and himself to deal with Cabana alone. And at this point, out of nowhere, Corino brings a fork into play and uses it on Cabana, which eventually busts him open, and Steen applies a crossface afterwards. We get a referee's stoppage out of that, so Steen and Corino defeat Cabana and Generico. After the matchup, Generico is trying his best to still get into the cage, and he eventually gets bolt cutters. But by that point, Steen and Corino are already gone. This was blue and white mask Generico. This is one of the moments that leads to him transitioning into the full black mask, which I also think that happened actually due to Glory by Honor, because that's when Steen steals the mask. But regardless, it's soon after Generico's in the all black until their final battle matchup, which, if you want to know how that ends and if Generico ever dons, spoiler, he dons his regular mask after the final battle. I just spoiled the whole shit for y'all, sorry. Nonetheless, we're moving on to a big matchup. One that still I see pop up regularly on Twitter, which always brings a smile to my face because it is not forgotten. We're transitioning from 2010 ROH. We're transitioning from the HDNet era. And we're going to 2015, episode number 178 from the Winter Warriors Tour in Philadelphia. It is a 6-man tag team matchup. Cedric Alexander, ACH, and Matt Sydal taking on the Young Bucks and AJ Styles. This was the same weekend as the 2015 Royal Rumble, which was also in Philly, so that's why. It's a nice little lead-in. I'm biased towards ROH. I would have said the ROH show is better than the Rumble. The most memorable thing from that Rumble is Roman Reigns getting booed out of the building. There's also a nice triple threat on that show. I will also say, anytime I can tell y'all some fun facts that involve myself or memories, I remember caring about this TV taping a lot because this matchup I thought was going to be fun, and this was a fun taping overall. But I do remember I went to the mall that weekend. But you remember going to the mall? Because it's been a long time. Because the closest mall to me never has anything anymore. So it's kind of difficult to go. But I remember that Saturday night, same time of this taping, checking in and seeing what was happening while at the mall. And I remember getting at Hot Topic the Daniel Bryan Yes t-shirt, which I wore the next day during the Royal Rumble and looked like an idiot because he got eliminated very early on in that Rumble. And a shirt that I wore a ton, the Cesaro King of Swing, King of the Ring style t-shirt. I remember getting it that Saturday before the Royal Rumble. So if I remember any other side notes and fun memories from my past, I'll mention them during these matchups, but I don't really know of any that would pop up. Speaking of this TV taping, this episode 178, was right before the anniversary show coming up that year, which the main event of that show was Jay Briscoe defending his world title against Tommaso Ciampa, Hanson, and Michael Elgin. and a very weird pay-per-view main event. Will not be the last time I have to say a very weird pay-per-view main event. But nonetheless, this episode, this was a fun episode as well, because each of the three competitors in the matchup had a warm-up match, per se, while Jay Briscoe was on commentary for him, and every single one of them tried to fight Jay Briscoe. Ciampa went against Jimmy Jacobs, Hanson went against the Romantic Touch, and Elgin went against Moose. I made note of that because I watched this full episode to talk about this matchup. The six-man tag main event, Styles and the Bucks versus Cedric, ACH, and Matt Sydal. As the two Matts start the matchup off with Sydal landing a standing moonsault, Cedric and Nick tag in with Cedric landing a dropkick, and then ACH and Styles tag in with a preview for their upcoming anniversary show, because that was the matchup coming up, and from my memory, was the best matchup from that show. That was not one of my favorite ROH shows, but I do remember enjoying that match. The Bucks take out Sydal with a neckbreaker and swanton and trap him in the corner. At that point, Sydal gets out of the corner once Nick accidentally knees AJ, and Sydal is able to tag out and hit the Bucks. Before doing so, he hits the Bucks with a double Hurricane Rana. Nick lands a tornado DDT on ACH to the outside. We get a super kick and Pele to Sydal, with the same happening to ACH soon afterwards. ACH, in a crazy bump, does a Hurricane Rana off of the apron to AJ and lands on the top of his head. Cedric dives onto the Bucks on the other side of the ring. Cedric then gets his knees up on a 450 attempt. Sydal misses his shooting star press, with the Bucks hitting a super kick afterwards, also hitting a super kick to Cedric and ACH, taking them out, as AJ tosses Nick into the Indie Taker, and then has Matt Sydal placed onto him by both Bucks to deliver the Styles Clash and to pick up the victory. Anytime that Styles and the Bucks teamed up in six-man action, you always knew it was going to be special, and this was one. This is probably the most, in my opinion, their most famous six-man match, because it's the most fun, the most unique, and was the main event of this show. And again, it's a matchup that is still memorable 10 years later. So there's that. Another matchup from 10 years ago, so 2015 ROH, Adam Cole versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Another weekend in which this is kind of a WWE tie-in, but ROH did 2 shows this weekend. WWE did 2 shows this weekend, because this was filmed, a part of the Aftershock tour, the same weekend as Field of Honor 2015, main evented by Red Dragon versus Jay Lethal and Shinsuke Nakamura. The same day as NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 1, which is Kevin Owens and Finn Balor in the ladder match. Sasha and Bayley also have a match on that show. And SummerSlam 2015, so a lot of action going on, but this would be split up because it's a TV taping. This was main event of episode number 210. Also on this episode is Matt Sydal versus Kushida, which if I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I mentioned the YouTube compilation that AEW uploaded on their channel of the Best of ROH at the 2300 Arena. This is a matchup that was on that video, so there's that. Adam Cole, Shinsuke Nakamura is what we're here to talk about, though. Taunting from both men early on, with Nakamura even doing the Adam Cole Bebe. Cole hits a super kick with Nakamura running towards him. Exploding kick by Nakamura in the corner. We get 2 more super kicks to Nakamura that get a 2 count. A figure 4 in the middle of the ring by Cole, with Nakamura applying his own submission with an armbar soon afterwards. We get a forearm exchange as well. A pair of knees in the corner by Nakamura, with Cole hitting a running knee in the center of the ring. And then a Shining Wizard that gets a 2 count. A super kick into the Florida Keys by Cole gets a 2 count again. Forearm exchange once again in the center of the ring with 2 more super kicks by Cole, with Nakamura able to fire up afterwards to deliver a running knee. He attempts to hit the Bumaye, but Cole turns it into a Yushikaroshi. Then Nakamura lands a Falcon Arrow and Bumaye to pick up the victory. I don't want to speak out of my terms, but I can't. Oh, I was about to lie. I was going to say this is Nakamura's last match in ROH. I would be lying because I literally just told y'all he may even in Field of Honor. So there's that. And again, a matchup that is remembered fondly. And this was a all-time TV taping, in my opinion. Now we are traveling into 2019 ROH. And I know with me saying that year, it triggers a lot of emotion and feelings out of you. To describe 2019 ROH, the easiest way would be weird. the best way, and it was something that I thought of, the word to use this year would be overshadowed. Because 2018, the end of 2018, the Elite left the company and formed AEW. A lot of fans follow the Elite and really only cared about ROH because of them. Some of those fans stayed and gave ROH a chance. And again, they were overshadowed by AEW, and any good that the company did in ROH that year was overshadowed by bad booking decisions and just stupid things in general. Some of those things will be discussed on the channel down the line, but this is the best stuff. That stuff doesn't matter right now. What matchup am I talking about? This is the main matchup, I will say, and I'm hyping it up because I love this matchup. This is the main matchup that inspired me to do this video because I wanted to talk about this matchup specifically. A tag team matchup involving the Briscoe brothers versus Roosh and Dragon Lee, two teams with similarities, and it showed during this matchup. This was a part of the Best of the World TV taping in 2019. Again, this is during the time period where, and it would probably have been easier for them to do this a bit earlier, but they did it during this time period where they would air the TV tapings live on Honor Club, and then when it came to the TV product, it would just be recap versions of the matchup because they're winking and nodding at you. Hey, subscribe to Honor Club to watch the full thing and the full show. So this is during that era of that. Now, I mentioned that again, it's the Best in the World TV taping. At the Best in the World pay-per-view event the previous day, Roosh defeated Flip Gordon on the pre-show. Dalton Castle defeated Dragon Lee on the main card, and this is a WTF matchup. Again, there's probably a lot that I've discussed already in this video. The Briscoes faced Eli Drake and Nick Aldis to a double countout. Yeah. But we're going to talk about the Briscoes versus Roosh and Dragon Lee, and I'm going to whisper this to y'all. Y'all can find this on YouTube if you really want to, and I'm whispering it because it's not an ROH upload. Regardless, Briscoes versus Roosh and Dragon Lee. We get an immediate start with no code of honor. Roosh and Jay are clotheslining one another in the ring with the Briscoes catching Lee into a suplex on the outside. We get a outside dive attempt, trapping him in the corner once they're back in the ring. We get a drop kick that gives Lee a chance to tag out with Roosh tossing Mark in and out of the ring, leading to him eventually bleeding. And then the LFI members start to pose in the ring when they're on the outside, when the Briscoes are on the outside. All four then brawl on the outside with Mark jumping off a chair onto his opponents. We get a froggy bow that gets a 2 count due to Lee breaking up the pin. We get a poison rana to Mark, a Spicoli driver to Dragon Lee, and a German suplex to Jay. Roosh then suplexes Jay in the corner with Mark being tossed onto the apron by Roosh, and the craziest spot in the matchup with Dragon Lee hitting a Hurricane Rana to the outside, setting up Roosh to hit the Bull's Horn on Jay and to pick up the victory. Fun matchup, intense. Again, these two teams they're obviously two teams of brothers, and just they were so damn similar that it really showcased during this matchup. And I do have a fact here, and is one that sucks, and one that I would say I need to look more into it, but it's just going to make me more mad. A rematch was scheduled to take place at an event entitled Battlestar 2020. When I say 2020 ROH, it almost evokes the same reaction as 2019 ROH, but due to way more outside of the ring drama, because 2020 was a year of hell for everybody, especially for ROH. Point being, a lot of things were announced for that year. Like, this match was announced to take place at this event, which would have been at Terminal 5, a very nice venue that ROH briefly ran, and then they returned back to the Manhattan Center. So them going there would have been cool again. But there's a lot of things that were announced for 2020 ROH, and it's something that I like to acknowledge because nobody else acknowledges it. There's a 6-man tag match, Mexa Blood versus Will Ospreay, Rocky Romero, and Amazing Red. That was announced for the Supercard of Honor show that year. That Supercard of Honor show was also the show that KENTA was supposed to compete at. Anytime I get a chance to mention those matchups and things from 2020 ROH, I will. And this was a perfect time to do so. But we need to go to that next year to talk about our last matchup for this video. A fatal 4-way matchup a four-corner survival elimination matchup, to be exact, for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Bandito versus Brody King versus EC3 versus Demonic Flamita. A time period where the current AEW Tag Team Champions were actually opponents. And the current Ring of Honor World Champion is the champion here, Bandito. If you want to talk, if you want me to ask you, if you want to ask me about the build for this match, I couldn't tell you anything because I stopped watching ROH TV in the middle of 2019 when they started going to recap form. So I missed a lot of 2019 and 2020 action. And then once they returned and they did the Pure Title Tournament, I started tuning in again. To my knowledge, there was not even really a build to this matchup. They just announced the matchup, and it happened, and it definitely was a weird one, but at least the challengers were worthy challengers and contenders for the title at the time. So Bandito defends his championship against Brody King, EC3, and Demonic Flamita. There's also a matchup that is uploaded to YouTube, so it is easy to access. Chops by EC3 and King, while Flamita and Bandito are on the outside. Bandito delivers several head scissors in the ring to Flamita, just to go to the outside again with a Fosbury flop. And another dive to Brody, and Bandito delivers another dive, this time onto Brody, and ends up landing in the crowd. Back in the ring, EC3 powerbombs Bandito onto Brody when Flamita brings a chair into the ring, and EC3 grabs it and uses it on Flamita just to get disqualified, and so EC3 is out of here. Me saying EC3 and ROH, you probably like, that actually happened? I think you mean TNA. He had a very brief run in ROH, and he had a brief run in this matchup. So we're now left with Flamita, Brody King, and Bandito, and the former Mexi Blood members. Mexi Squad. I get Lifeblood and Mexi Squad confused because they happen around the same time period and both involved Bandito. But Mexi Squad was Bandito, Flamita, and Ray Horse. But the team had broken up, but now they're briefly reuniting to get rid of Brody King, which dramatically changes once he gets to his feet. They do, however, land a crazy spot where Flamita has Brody King on his shoulders, and Bandito delivers a Canadian Destroyer onto Brody King. Both men then dive to Brody on the outside, with Brody getting into the ring to land the all-seeing eye on Flamita and eliminating him, leaving the Brodito tag partners the last two in this matchup. We got a pile driver to Bandito, gets a 2 count, a snap Rana by Bandito that gets a 2 count, a shooting star press that only gets a 1 count, but a Gonzo bomb attempt is turned into a roll-up, and Bandito picking the victory up after the 3 count. Ending this compilation of matchups contributed by your boy, AHS Rules. I very rarely refer to myself in the third person, but I felt that was a moment in which it was needed. So I hopefully did not confuse y'all. When I saw that AEW uploaded that compilation on Thursday, I got a little bit salty because I'm like, this is going to confuse people. They're going to be thinking I'm talking about that video. I'm talking about something completely different. So that's why I specified the matchups in the description and throughout the video. But this was very fun. Because again, I thought it would be difficult to just choose one ROH event from the 2300s arena's history. And again, it's something that we could visit down the line when ROH and AEW hopefully run it again. Obviously, give some other cities a chance. Come back near AHS Rules, because it's been a long time since that happened. I'd like to go to a show. So there's that as well. I'm not going out of my way to go to a show. Come close to me, please. Regardless, this was very fun to do. Hopefully you enjoyed it. The plan for next week's Retro ROH review is Glory by Honor 2008. Is one that I will be a little bit nitpicky about because the older ROH events on Honor Club are divided up by matches, and sometimes they're out of order and not the full matches. So I tried to review it to the best of my ability. But that's also an event that took place at the 2300 Arena, so that's the tie-in there. And it's an event that I have not seen a lot of. I can't say I haven't seen any of it. I don't think I've seen any of it, because I don't own it on DVD. So there is that. So I don't want to hold y'all up any longer. I've been here for 30 minutes. I'm ready to drink some water. Hopefully you do the same as well. Like this video. Comment if you want to. I will appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see y'all down the road, because I'm out for now. Goodbye.